First of all, as you said, nobody should be subjected to any kind of abuse like that.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, as we end the week, are our cavalcade of stars, our favorite administrator, Robert Abney. Robert, how are you this taping day?
Living the dream, man, every day.
Love it. And Captain for Life, Will Cotton. Will, how are you, sir?
Doing great.
All right, on today's Road Down Thursday edition, man, we've got some serious stuff to talk about. We got Northwestern and Gonzaga football teams needing what we affectionately like to say is redirection. Bob Huggins apparently is not ready to go. San Diego State still needs a home. And in segment 3, CBS Sports, one of my favorite websites, talked about some potential conference champions repeating. We'll see if we agree or disagree. But first, Northwestern. So this story broke as we were preparing for the show, and by the time this airs, we expect a lot of dialogue to take place. So as we cover the story, first and foremost, our heart goes out to the victims. No one should have to suffer such indignities. But with that, we're going to cover the situation as we would on the Odd Coaches Podcast. So Northwestern will reconsider penalties for Coach Pat Fitzgerald after new details emerged surrounding allegations of hazing in their football program. University President Michael Schill, in a letter sent to the Northwestern community, wrote that he may have, quote, erred in weighing the appropriate sanction for Fitzgerald, who began serving a 2-week unpaid suspension. Fitzgerald's suspension was among the measures that Northwestern announced after concluding a 6-month investigation that it commissioned into hazing allegations made by an anonymous whistleblower. Schill also wrote that he spoke to the player's family and apologized for what the player had to go through in the program. He also attempted to contact the former player whose allegations were detailed in a report made by the Daily Northwestern. Schill will speak to Northwestern's Board of Trustees and other university leaders to determine a new penalty for Coach Pat Fitzgerald, who has been the coach since 2006. And he was also a 2-time National Defensive Player of the Year with the Wildcats and like a legend at Northwestern. Before I have you guys chime in, here's the presidential quote. In determining an appropriate penalty for the head coach, I focused too much on what the report concluded he didn't know and not enough on what he should have known. As the head coach of one of our athletic programs, Coach Fitzgerald is not only responsible for what happens within the program, but must also take great care to uphold our institutional commitment to the student experience. Clearly, he failed to uphold that commitment, and I failed to sufficiently consider that failure in levying a sanction. Before I continue, Robert, what are your initial thoughts on Northwestern situation?
So, first of all, as you said, nobody should be subjected to any kind of abuse like that. And, my heart breaks for those kids. Because they are kids. I'm not sure what the president was thinking. I don't get how you do a 6-month investigation into something that's probably illegal in your state. Because if I recall correctly, not all 50 states have anti-hazing laws, but most of them do. I don't know how you conduct a 6-month investigation and that's what you come up with. I don't know how you do that. I don't if I'm looking at it from my perspective, once that stuff starts coming to light, people are going on administrative leave. while we investigate and while we figure out what happened. And if he didn't know, he should have. And those assistant coaches who should have known, nothing good ever comes of going to summer camp for athletics like that. Almost every hazing incident I have heard of that happens in high schools, for example, almost every single one happens in summer camps like this, where student athletes are not supervised. And you can say all you want, oh, well, they're not minors, so we didn't need to supervise them. Yeah, you did. And bottom line is, I don't see how Pat Fitzgerald, Northwestern guy or not, I don't see how he or any of his coaching staff can or should survive this personally.
Will, you are my captain for life, in part because you did what captains are supposed to do, look after the entire organization. As you heard what happened, and I tried to give initial notes, what are your thoughts as a former captain on what you heard in this Northwestern situation?
It's tough. It's tough, as part of a team, there is a certain aspect of hazing. It's there, and especially when you're young kids, there are different things that you're going to encourage. Those things, oh, well, let's punch him in the chest. You're one of us. You're a brother. It's sometimes it is something that we have to remember that is not safe. These things are not safe. I remember people used to, they cut their hands and they were blood brothers and forever, and that's not really safe either. I mean, that's not safe. When you're an adult, you can do whatever you want. But obviously, when you have kids, and these kids are in college, they're still kids, in my opinion. Now that I've gotten a little older, they need somebody who's kind of monitoring what's going on. It's unfortunate because I feel like Fitzgerald is part of the boys club. He's part of Northwest. He played there. He's been the coach there almost 20 years. Like that's a boys club. I think they're kind of protecting him in a way. To be honest with you, Northwest doesn't really need to do that. I mean, he's not winning. It's time for him to get rid of him anyway. This was a great opportunity if you want to talk about just moving out of the way. I mean, but what they've done is you're still allowing the monster in the room, and eventually it's going to either get people hurt, or you're going to stop getting athletes because they're like, yo, you guys really didn't do anything. I'm not sending my kid. Me as a father, I'm not sending my kids to Northwestern now. That's strong. But I think more stuff will come out if they don't do it the right way. I think more things are going to come out, and eventually it'll force that coaching staff out, as they shouldn't have already been. But it'll happen eventually. It's just disgusting, in my opinion.
All right. Please, Robert.
I just add, Keith, this story came out because it was reported by the student newspaper at Northwestern. Northwestern has a really good reputation as a school of journalism. A lot of the folks you see on network TV went through the Northwestern School of Journalism. So if you want to find something good out of this, kudos to the university for continuing to support the ability of students to report on things like this and not censor them, not try to cover things up because they're students.
Yes, and to go with that, Robert, fans, here are the complaint and the school's response to the complaint, because we're slow. We're administrators. We're going to walk you through the process. According to the newspaper, The former player reported his claim to the school in late 2022, and he spoke to investigators during the 6-month University Commission probe. The school said the hazing claims could be, quote, largely supported, and that quote, there had been significant opportunities to discover and report what had happened, but investigators did not find enough evidence to prove coaches knew about the activity. Investigators also received varied perspectives on the conduct following interviews with current and former student athletes there. Fitzgerald's suspension was one of several actions implemented by Northwestern. Other measures included no more preseason practices off campus, and a new football locker room monitor who will not report to Fitzgerald. It's important to note that the current players wrote a statement and gave Fitzgerald their support, unwavering commitment to the team. The statement also labeled the allegations as, quote, exaggerated and twisted. Coach Fitzgerald made a statement. And again, he's a decorated alum who's coached Northwestern since 2006. And he said he was very disappointed to hear about the hazing allegations and had no prior knowledge of the incidents. Now, I will say I have been a coach, and it's hard to know everything. And my captain had to tell me some things that I didn't know. Now, once you know, you deal with whatever. But we're not going to say you got to know everything because it's hard. Robert's a principal. You have to trust that your staff will assist you. But here are my thoughts. One, tell it all, tell it first, tell it yourself is a staple of crisis management. Northwestern did not do this. You gave your coach a 2-week suspension after a 6-month investigation, and you announced that suspension publicly, and now you are trying to take it back. There might be some legal issues with that. Might be. Okay. Something about a double jeopardy thing I heard in the Constitution. I don't know. You also released additional punishments. You, as the school, announced these things. Your student athletes released a separate statement as a whole unit. Your coach released a separate statement. This tells me that there are communication issues across the board. This was messy and sloppy. And as I like to say on the show, because I'm not joking, it rarely ends well. That's because it rarely ends well. Some serious reflection has to take place. Robert, I want to give you the last words on this. Any additional thoughts before we move on to Georgia?
This is, and I mean, this ties in with Georgia as well, but this is what big time college athletics has become. We as a collective allow these behaviors to happen because of the culture we've created around big time college sports. And we act surprised and act, we're angry or whatever when things like this happen. And I think we fail to note that what did you expect was going to happen? Because this is the culture that we as a collective have created. And we're not reeling it back. This kind of thing is not going to change. Incidents like Northwestern, incidents like what's going on in Georgia, incidents like what went on with Alabama basketball last year, none of that is going to change. All of that is going to continue to happen.
And with
how do we deal with that? I think that, if we're honest with each other, we as a collective are going to have to decide, here are the lines in the sand that we're not willing to cross, and we're not there yet.
Yeah. And with that, Will's going to be the first one to respond about Georgia. So let me tell you folks what's going on. The Georgia football team had another speeding related incident when freshman outside linebacker Samuel Mapimba was ticketed last week for going 88 in a 55, according to police records. His speeding citation occurred an hour before Georgia receiver Marcus Rosemy Jacksaint appeared in Athens court and pleaded guilty to driving 90 in a 45 in May. A reckless driving charge was dismissed as a part of the plea. He spent an hour in jail. We have talked at length about Georgia and their football team and the tragic incidents that have taken place, as well as the Georgia Athletic Association issuing a statement in June saying the Athletic Association recognized the severity of reckless driving and is actively addressing recent incidents with educational measures, mentorship, and when necessary, punitive actions. Will, what's going on in Georgia, man? Talk to.
Lack of structure, lack of punishment, lack of accountability. It's every school is going to have its different rules and regulations in terms of based on their student body. I think Georgia, this is, I don't know, obviously this has been going on so long, but this is a great time for them to step up and say, hey, this is going to be a school rule. If you get a DUI and you're a student athlete, you're missing 2 games. You're missing something. They can dismiss you if they want you, if you have the DUI. But I think they understand it's a little bit more bigger than that. But hey, guys can lose 2 games, 2-3 games, and then keep going from there. And if it can be case by case, like this gentleman, this freshman, it's like, hey, you were going 90 on a 45. Yeah, it looks like you're not playing this year. You're suspended for the year. I mean,
Remember we talked last week about the gambling penalties of if it's $201, it's this. Are you looking at something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, I think it can get a little bit more black and white in terms of, look, if you got a DUI, one, if you're underage, that's even like a suspension for a year, in my opinion. And if you're over 21, it's like, okay, now we will look at it case by case, and then we'll give you we'll make you a determination based on what happened. You can miss at least 1 game based on that. But yeah, there has to be something going on, because it's either going to happen that, or somebody's going to be a tragic accident going on, because there are no adults being adults here. There's just people out there who are just like, oh, well, welcome to Georgia. Here's a Charger. Yeah, you're a football team. Here you go. Here's a car. From the NIL. Here you go. Buy these supercars and drive them around and drink. And get excessively drunk. That's the thing. It's like, the dude, what, 0.197? Like, that's ridiculous. That's almost 3 times. Like, dude, and that's ridiculous.
You can't even lie on the floor without holding on if you blow a 1.197.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. That's so there's only 2 ways it's going to happen. Either you go hard on them and you suspend the kids who do it, or somebody's seriously going to get hurt, and then you're going to really pay for it, because you had chances to really make sure this couldn't happen, to prevent it. So.
All right, Robert, we're going to have you close because we did not have this on our bingo card. I know I didn't. Weeks after Bob Huggins announced his resignation following a DUI, an attorney for the former West Virginia men's basketball coach claims that he never formally resigned last month, and that Huggins will sue the university if he's not reinstated. In response, the university, which announced the hiring of longtime assistant Josh Eilert as an interim coach last month, said it will not restate Huggins and will defend itself in court. Last month, Huggins announced his resignation through a statement and said that, quote, recent actions do not represent the values of the university or the leadership expected in this role, after he had been arrested for driving under the influence and had a blood alcohol of 0.21. According to the documents released, Huggins' legal team sent a letter to Gordon Gee, WVU's president, and said that Huggins never officially resigned. The letter also said that Huggins entered rehab after his arrest and intends to return to his post as head coach when he's finished. It was believed that June Huggins, Bob Huggins' wife, sent an email correspondence and not Huggins himself. The school has also said it had ongoing conversations with Huggins' legal representation, not his current attorney, in recent weeks that suggests that the former coach understood that he had resigned and had even been discussing next steps of the resignation and retirement with WVU leaders. Robert, how, how did we get here? And what are your thoughts to close out this segment on this?
Who knows what he's thinking? I mean, because all West Virginia really has to do is say, okay, fine, you didn't resign. You're fired for cause because you blew 0.21, on your second DWI. Yes, the first one was a while back, but obviously this is repeat. You're a repeat offender. And oh, by the way, you embarrassed the university because you were on a radio talk show and called the people from Xavier. You used,
Inappropriate language.
And we're not doing that at West Virginia University. It does not represent our morals and values. Thank you. Thank you for your Hall of Fame career. Have a nice day.
We wish you the best in your future endeavors.
Exactly.
Oh.
It's I mean, I guess he can sue him because you can sue anybody for anything.
You're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to lose because
His wife sent a letter.
Wife sent a letter, Will.
That's like when your mom sends a letter like, "Dear Coach, didn't." That's so. That's
exactly.
Funny.
It's like, do whatever you want. You can.
I'm going to write a letter. Don't write a letter. He definitely said, "Don't write." I'm going to write a letter.
No, don't write a letter. Just go gently into the good night, Coach.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go be a TV commentator. Go do what you do.
They'll hang you in the rafters. All that. Don't sue them. Just
just go on. Just go.
All right. So with that, fans, when we get back in the Odd Coaches podcast, we're going back to the West Coast and talk about San Diego State opening mouth and inserting foot. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches podcast in segment 2. San Diego State overplayed their hand. So the Mountain West has basically taken up San Diego State on their intent to depart the league, as stated in a June 13th letter to the conference. A flurry of subsequent back and forth letters has ended for now, with the Mountain West Conference withholding San Diego State revenue distribution this year, which is $6.6 million as a part of its exit fee it believes it deserves. So they're holding this money. So in case they do exit, we already have at least half of it. San Diego State still considers itself a member of the Mountain West. The conference says San Diego State is out as of July 1st, 2024. Fellas, this sounds like a Seinfeld episode. Though San Diego State once believed that the Pac-12 and the Big 12 were interested in them, the Big 12 now has said they had little interest in bringing in San Diego State, and Pac-12 still has no TV deal. So we've got a problem. Where are we now? So, Robert, you're our administrator. San Diego State has like no leverage, no place to go, and they got a bill to pay. What are you thinking about this?
Whoops. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just sit there and keep your mouth shut and not do anything. And that's all San Diego State had to do. They just needed to sit there and keep their mouth shut and not do anything, not confirm or deny any rumors or anything until the Pac-12 figured out what they were going to do, and they were able to say, here's the money, here's your invite, here's this, lay it all out. And then San Diego State can say, okay, we're going to the Pac-12. Because now what you've done is you're going to wind up being an independent in football, which means you're going to be playing St. Agnes for the blind and one-legged, because that's the only people who will play you, because everybody has a conference schedule. And then they're going to be in the Big West for all of the rest of their sports, because that's the only place they'll have to go. So I don't know what is going to happen. I think, it's probably in the Mountain West's best interest to keep them around, because they're pretty good and they'll keep bringing the conference money from, bowl games and NCAA tournaments, but
make them sweat.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
Okay. So, Will, being who you are and remembering things, if you're the Mountain West Conference, I gave you all this information. How are you handling San Diego State?
You just got to, San Diego State, they remind me of George Costanza. It's just like, it just I feel like he is pulling all the strings on this with the Penske file. And, it feels like, it's just like a George thing. Like, you have this foolproof idea that's going to work, and you think you're smarter than everyone, and everything just blows everything up and nobody knows. And then you're just looking around like, all you had to do was do this. He's like, so it's embarrassing more so for the AD side and the decision of things going on in negotiations. It just doesn't bode well for the school. Now, ironically, and if you're talking about just fixing things, if you're independent, technically you could play the schedule that you had in the Mountain West.
Not if they say no.
Exactly. But you could charge double and say, look, you get some kind of money into it, like that. But
San Diego State's not rolling like that, Will. They got a little bit of loot, but they ain't rolling that hard.
They had, that's probably the best case. That's the best case for them. But man, I think somebody's gonna get fired. 1 to 3 years with this snafu with everything, someone's gonna lose their job. Or
speaking of that, I do have your information, Will. The Mountain West Conference says, based on a June 13th correspondence, it considers the Aztecs out of the league. On June 30th, the San Diego State's president, Dr. Adela de la Torre, wrote Commissioner Gloria Navarez, stating she was pleased to announce that the school had decided to remain in the Mountain West, which again goes to a Seinfeld episode saying, forget the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's a meeting scheduled of Mountain West presidents July 17th, and San Diego State's status is expected to be discussed at that time. As of now, the school would have to wait at least another year to leave the Mountain West without paying the $34 million exit fee. Mountain West is on record saying the school needs to pay their exit fee, and San Diego State says they can't afford that number. So we might go to court, fellas, and court's not good for anyone. But let's close talking about the Pac-12 media deal. Coaches and ADs are concerned that a deal heavy on streaming broadcasts may impact recruiting. A linear cable window may be closing for the Pac-12, with NBC Universal, that's NBC and the USA Network. That might not work out because the WWE and NASCAR is in negotiations to re-up with the network because their deals are expiring in the near future. And WWE may go to Fox, may go somewhere else. So we're talking about having the Pac-12 on the USA Network. The USA Network has a long history of sports production that goes back to the 80s. Again, all of this is speculation. Will, I'm going to go back to you. Now that you know that it's possible that the Pac-12 could be on USA, now you're San Diego State. How are you feeling about any of this? Now I'm switching you to San Diego State. What are you thinking, sir?
They're thinking, oh crap. Oh crap. I don't even think my mother watches the USA Network anymore.
A lot of Law and Order on there, buddy.
And that's streamed now. So you don't even have to. I mean, it's on like Sundance Channel and all these other stuff. Yeah, it seems like they had like an antiquated kind of idea, and they were like, oh, people still stream now. And I think they wholly didn't even think about that. And that's going to mess up everything for them. But you get what you get, man. You get what you get. And now you're ending in a bad conference. You're playing the Nuns of the Blind, and you're playing on the US Network.
Possibly.
But that is not where the plan was. That was not the plan.
Robert, close us out, sir.
Well, and I mean, just to go back to like their football schedule, and I think we talked about this last week. New Mexico State was an independent in football, okay? And I said they played Liberty 3 times, and I was only slightly exaggerating, but like Liberty was an independent. They played each other home and home, okay? And they filled in their schedule with basically whoever else they could get. They played like 4 money games, which worked out well for the athletic department, not so well for the football team. I mean, their schedule would, they'd be at Alabama, and then they would host Morehead State, and then they would go to Liberty, and then they would go to Tennessee, and then they would host.
You kind of play.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, then they play. I think they played UMass twice last year, right? I mean, that's what San Diego State has to look forward to, because who's going to play them?
Yeah, who's going
to play them? So that's really what they're up against.
Well, hopefully their president has a meeting with the athletic director before they send out stuff, because my guess is similar to other situations we talked about. One side's not talking about the other. Shameless plug for finding the balance, because for some reason there's an adversarial relationship between academics and athletics. Mm-hmm. And with that, when we come back, we're going to talk about potential repeat champions in a lot of the different college football conferences as we get you ready for things strictly for entertainment purposes on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
The reviews are in for Dr. Keith Adams' book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success. College professor and student-athlete academic expert Dr. Lisa Rubin said, "There is nothing out there like this book, so I do hope people will pay attention and give it a read." Former George Mason standout Fowler Campbell said, "Consider this book an opportunity to work directly with Dr. Adams, just like I did. I assure you that there will be something you can take away that will be useful to you throughout your personal journey." Ryan Waite, a recent college graduate who is a software engineer, said, "I like how the book is based on research, which makes it good for general students as well as student athletes." The book serves as both a memoir to Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes over 15 personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues from a variety of sports and endeavors. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. Based on our good friends at CBS Sports, I'm loving them. We're going to talk about some potential repeat conference champions. We're not talking about everybody, but we'll see how this works out. So, fellas, in the ACC, Clemson, the Tigers have been the safest bet in college football for some time with the ACC. Do you think they can repeat again? Will, does the ACC have anything else other than Clemson? What do you think?
Clemson's got it. I don't unless somebody comes out surprising me, but Clemson, I don't see nobody else.
All right, Robert, what do you think, sir?
The only potential challenger I would see is Florida State. Other than that, they're waiting for basketball season in the ACC.
Hey, I'm gonna push back and say North Carolina with Luke May. It is Luke, right? Because I don't want to get the brothers mixed up.
I don't know.
They're gonna do it. They're gonna be the champions. And I'm only saying that because I had a chance to go to the football camp with Point Five and Mac Brown hyped up everybody. So I'm going to say that kid's going to be special, and let's go get him. All right, in the American Conference, and yes, Robert, it is not Conference USA anymore. It's the American Conference. The Tulane Green Wave, they ranked in the top 35 in returning production. They've got a good quarterback in Michael Pratt. We'll make a note of that. Strictly for entertainment purposes only, and there's a chance that they can repeat. Robert, did you even follow Tulane last year?
No, I did. I think I saw their bowl game. They won their bowl game pretty impressively. I remember that. I got nothing.
Will, what do you think? Strictly for entertainment purposes only.
I think they'll win. I think North Texas is joining the conference, right? So that should kind of spice it up a little bit, see what they can do. But until then, they show it. I must say, I'm gonna go with Tulane.
Well, and if it didn't UTSA go to the American?
UTSA went there.
UTSA,
they were good.
Solid. They're pretty salty. Watch
out
for the road runners.
Yep.
All right, Big Ten. Will, they said Michigan can repeat, and outside of the Georgia Bulldogs, Michigan has been dominant the last 2 seasons, 25-3. Harbaugh still coaching though. Can we depend on him 2 years in a row? What do you think, Will? Can Michigan repeat in the Big Ten?
I think he's already got the monkey off his back. There's no pressure for him now. I think he should just roll through. I think Ohio State's on their downtrend. I think Michigan should win the division again, in my opinion.
Robert, what about you?
As long as when they play, I don't know where the big game is this year. If it's
at the end of the season, like always.
I don't know if it's in the big house or if it's in the horseshoe, but that matters. It also matters whether Michigan can guard Marvin Harrison Jr. Because if they can't guard him, that could be a problem.
All right. Well, the quarterback may or may not get it to him, but we're going to move on to the Big 12. Kansas State, shout out to our good friend, Dr. Lisa Rubin. The Wildcats surprised a lot of folks last year, and they're going to be right back in the mix, according to media reports. Robert, can K-State repeat with Texas and Oklahoma back for one more year?
No. I'm going with Texas. Wouldn't surprise me if Oklahoma wins it either, but no, they're not repeating.
Okay. Will, what about you? Will they repeat?
No way. I'm going to go either Oklahoma. Just remember, this is Big 12 country. This is Texas and Oklahoma. And they're going to remind them that's how, before they leave out to for the conference, they're going to let them know who's the baddest, who's the biggest. And I'm going to take Oklahoma.
Brent Venables better do better than he did last year, because I don't think you can get 2 years of mediocrity at Oklahoma.
Nope.
All right. The MAC, Toledo, the Rockets have the most talented roster in the MAC, but they haven't won the big one. But then last year they did. They lead the MAC in returning production. And again, Will, for you, headlined by a talented quarterback, DeQuan Fenn. Write that name down. So, Will, Toledo Rockets repeating in the Mid-America Conference, I believe. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I mean, they always play those like random, like Central, Eastern, Western Michigans.
Yes.
Yeah.
Action on Tuesday night, baby. Tuesday night.
Yeah, man. I think they'll just continue. I think Toledo will continue. I think they'll get through that class they have next couple of years, this year, next two, and then they'll kind of open up after that. But they seem that they got what they're going and this running on jet fuel, so they're good.
Okay, Robert, $10 on the Toledo repeating. What do you think? strictly for entertainment
I
purposes.
love me some Tuesday night action with Michigan directional schools. I love it. I Toledo, sure. I got nothing. I don't know. Because I mean, one thing that I love about Tuesday night action is you can always count on a basketball score.
Yes.
For sure.
68,
over.
56.
Yep.
We don't need kickers, baby. Somebody's going to score a touchdown, and it's going to be the lead on the late Sports Center.
Yep.
All right. Mountain West Conference. Okay. Mountain West Conference. Is that Fresno State Bulldogs that I had down? No,
Mhm.
Boise State. No. It's Fresno State. Fresno State beat Boise State last year. I remember I was upset about that.
Yep.
At Dave and Buster's. So Fresno State, they have returning backup Logan Fife and transfer Mikey Keene to give some different quarterback options. So we're going Fresno State. Will, okay, I gave you some names because you do the multi-tiered betting. Do you think Fresno State can do that?
Nah, give me the Boise State, man. Give me Boise State in the bluegrass.
Okay.
I like them guys.
Robert, what about you, sir?
You know what, man? I'm taking my New Mexico Lobos. That's what I'm doing.
Oh, yikes.
They ain't got nobody to play quarterback, but I'm taking them anyway.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I will say this: defensively, last year they were very good. They were, if they weren't dead last in offense, they were like in the bottom 5. So they'd be in every game till about the start of the fourth quarter, and the defense would have been on the field the whole game. And they were just done.
The whole time.
They're just done.
Well, I'm going with San Diego State. They're going to win the Mountain West and say, screw you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Pac-12, Utah. The Utes have been quietly dominant on the West Coast. Robert, you have seen the Utes on occasion. What do you think? Can they repeat as Pac-12 champion?
Yes, they can. Caleb Williams at USC might have something to say about that because I think they're still in this last year.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Okay. I like Utah. Utah is a, there's all those memes on Twitter about UCLA and USC going to play Iowa in December, and Iowa comes out with 3 tight ends and a fullback, and they're like, huh? That's how Utah plays.
Okay.
Utah plays like that. So, they're fine. If, USC, you want to throw the ball around, we're going to beat you up.
So, Will, do you think Utah can repeat?
It'd be tough, man. I mean, I thought they were going to be a lot better than they were last year, and they kind of got punched in the mouth early on, and it was like, okay, all right, well, we'll see. But I mean, it would take a Herculean kind of effort for Caleb Williams to kind of have everyone forget about Utah. He would have to be like a Vince Young with a little bit of like Reggie Bush for me to knock off Utah. I think Utah wins, but I think USC will make it a little bit interesting until they actually play. And I think Utah is like, hey, this is why we're a much better team.
All right. Now, Georgia and the SEC. They've won consecutive national championships. Can they three-peat? And Tennessee tends to be their only real challenge if you look at their schedule. Can they do it again? What do you think, Will? Can Georgia repeat?
Plot twist. 4 or 5 guys get suspended and they don't end up, they lose 2 games and Tennessee wins.
They lose 2 games?
They lose.
Georgia? Even with whoever's issue.
They're gonna get 2 key players are gonna get suspended through the DUI or anything they're doing with the car stuff, and they're gonna lose 2 games, and they're gonna be 2 close games, and that's what's gonna cost them. That's my my 2.
All right. Robert, what do you think, man? Georgia runs through them.
Only thing stopping Georgia right now is the Georgia Highway Patrol.
There you go.
That's it. That's it. I always feel like, and maybe this is inaccurate, I don't know, but I always feel like that if you allow misbehavior like that, that is going to come back and bite you in the butt at the least opportune time. And I think that's exactly what Will's talking about. I think they've allowed it, and that's going to come back and get them. Karma is not a rumor, my friends.
Okay. And finally, the Sun Belt Conference. The Troy Trojans put together a great debut season last year. I followed them throughout the year. They went from 5-7 to 12-2, and they were in the AP top 25. Can they repeat again? Robert, can Troy put it together again one more time? What do you think?
Run it back, baby. Run
All
it
right.
back. Let's go.
Will, strictly for entertainment purposes only. Can Georgia do this thing?
Oh yeah,
Troy, excuse me.
Troy for sure. Georgia and Troy, both of them. Run it back.
Okay. All right. So, fans, as we close out, I'm very excited. This season, we will be having a week's worth of college shows from starting August 7th through August 12th on a daily basis. We are going to have our previews. We are just about 5 weeks away from college football starting. So strictly for entertainment purposes only, we're going to get our cavalcade of stars together, and we're going to talk about the American and the Group of Five and HBCUs, as well as the Power Five, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, Pac-12, and SEC. So stay tuned. We'll be taping those episodes soon. And while I'm on vacation, you will hear from our cavalcade of stars. So on behalf of Captain for Life, Will Cotton, our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, and my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, I am Dr. Keith Adams, saying thank you for listening and or watching the iCoaches podcast. We'll see you on the sidelines. Till next time, take care.
The iCoaches podcast is sponsored by the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project is an industry leader in providing student-athlete academic and athletic support. From assessing student-athletes' academic and athletic skills to measuring and monitoring student-athlete academic progress to improving student-athlete time management and organizational skills, the CKA Save Project provides wraparound services for student-athletes from middle school through college. For more information, visit us on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org or schedule a free consultation with Dr. Keith Adams by emailing cka@ckasaveproject.org. We hope you enjoyed today's show. The iCoaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the iCoaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the iCoaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at oddcoaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the iCoaches podcast.